Добрий вечір. Вітаємо до Українського інституту Америки з програмою «Сила пристрасності». Для наших англомовних гостей ми переведемо сьогоднішню програму англійською мовою. For those who didn't quite get that, rest assured you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to the Ukrainian Institute of America's Power of Passion series coming to you from New York. My name is Andrew Horodisky. I'm an associate member of the Ukrainian Institute, and I'm honored to introduce tonight's special event and distinguished guests. The Power of Passion is a recently developed initiative hosted by the Ukrainian Institute as a series of in-depth talks with thought leaders and doers of Ukrainian citizenry or Ukrainian descent who share their visions and greater social purpose, whether through committed personal or professional efforts. Tonight, our featured guest is Myroslava Gongadze, the newly appointed Eastern Europe chief of Voice of America, who will discuss her life in journalism, her championing of human rights and the rights of a free press, as well as reflections on a topical and delicate state of affairs in today's democratic Ukraine. Marta Zielyk is tonight's guest moderator. Following the talk, you, the audience, will have the opportunity to ask questions and share your comments with our guests by means of the Zoom chat function on your screen. Voice of America is the largest U.S. international broadcaster, providing news and information in more than 40 languages to an estimated weekly audience of more than 311 million people worldwide. VOA pursues its mission by producing accurate, balanced, and comprehensive reporting, programming, online and social media content for a global audience, particularly those who are denied access to open and free media. Ultimately, it is a powerful and trusted source of information for all those who believe in freedom and democracy. It is also distributed by satellite, cable, FM, and medium wave, and is carried on a network of more than 3,500 affiliate stations. Voice of America is part of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, the government agency that oversees all non-military U.S. international broadcasting and is funded by the U.S. Congress. A tireless campaigner for human rights and international print and broadcast freedoms, Myroslava Gongadze has been instrumental in modeling democratic media norms and helping Ukrainians worldwide better understand U.S. policy toward their homeland. She was granted political asylum in the United States in 2001 following the murder of her husband, high-profile investigative journalist Georgy Gongadze. Her personal story became a rallying cry during the democracy movement that later grew into the 2004 Orange Revolution in Ukraine. Since she fled Ukraine, she has resolutely worked to bring her late husband's circumstance to justice and won a landmark case against the Ukrainian government from the European Court of Human Rights in 2005. Her coverage of developments during the Euromaidan revolution and ensuing crisis period of Russia's aggression raised her international profile, as did her role as moderator of the nationally televised Ukraine's first Maidan election debates in 2014. Until recently, Myroslava was head of the Ukrainian service with Voice of America. In addition to her work in that and in her new capacity, she is often invited to speak as a subject matter expert in various forums discussing politics, democratization, and media in Ukraine. She periodically contributes to NPR, and her writings have been published in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and the Journal of Democracy. Ms. Gongadze received the Reagan-Faskel Democracy Fellowship to study the role of media in Ukraine's transition to democracy in 2001, and the Patrak Foundation Scholarship at George Washington University in 2013. In 2014, she received the Princess Olha Order, a Ukrainian civil decoration bestowed on women of outstanding personal merit for her contribution to the development of journalism, active civil stance, and professional excellence. Our moderator, Marta Zielyk, recently retired from the U.S. Department of State after an accomplished 25-year career as the senior diplomatic interpreter for Ukrainian. As such, she interpreted for 4 U.S. presidents, 6 secretaries of state and defense, and countless other high-level U.S. officials. Prior to serving the State Department, Ms. Zielyk worked as an international radio broadcaster. In the 1980s, she was with the Ukrainian service of Voice of America and later joined the Ukrainian service of Radio Liberty, based in New York, Washington, and Munich. Ms. Zielyk holds degrees from Barnard College and Columbia University, New York, and from the National Defense University in Washington. She is proud to be a native New Yorker and, in her own words, even prouder to have made 117 trips to Ukraine so far. Myroslava and Marta, it's my pleasure and thrill to welcome both of you. Marta, if you would, I leave the conversation in your hands.
Thank you very much, Andreu. That was a lovely introduction to both of us. I'm sure Myroslava will agree. Myroslava, we've known each other for quite a while now. And I don't know if you remember when we first met. There's no reason for you really to remember that moment, but I do. And it was the first time that you came to the State Department to have an official meeting with the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. I know you're thinking, did I do that? You did. And they called me to interpret for you. And I honestly was not sure what to expect. I had heard about your whole issue, everything that was going on with you, and I had never seen a picture of you. So I was very curious, as were a lot of other people, because that meeting was packed. Usually those kinds of meetings are very tight, but so many people came to see you. And you walked in and you were this slight woman with short black cropped hair, no makeup, looking very delicate. And we sat down, started to speak, and you were so poised and so calm and so resolute. And I thought, watch out for this woman. She has nerves of steel. If she can, at her age, you looked much younger than you were. Everything that you've been through, you can come to the State Department and be that resolute. And I guess that my interpretation of you at that time was quite correct, because look at you now. I'm not only interpreting for you then, but sort of having a nice conversation right now. So that was quite a long introduction to ask you about that steeliness that I noticed at that time. I'm wondering where that comes from. Maybe we can start with your childhood, and you can tell us whether that is somewhere that was the foundation where you got that. But I won't put words into your mouth. Why don't you tell us about your childhood?
Thank you, Marta. Actually, I don't remember that meeting. That's true. I don't. And wow, sheesh. I've been to State Department after that many, many times, obviously, but somehow it's that time is like, it was so blurry for me. And when I came and I really didn't know what to expect, I didn't know anyone. I had 2 small kids and two suitcases, and that's all I had. And I didn't have anyone in this town in Washington, D.C. to actually rely on or any friendship whatsoever. And there was a couple I just have to mention that because it's very important for me. because you said who I become right now, but those people who I met here, and specifically you and Nadia Duke, a couple of other people, those people are basically were my core, my I don't know, they helped me to survive in this town and in the United States, and it was very, very important for me. So I just want to say that. And you're talking about that being resolute. You know, when you're young and when you don't know what you don't know, you're probably much more assured of yourself than actually when you grow up and understand the threats that the world bring to you and the challenges that can come to you. Back then, the challenge that I faced when I was 29, when my husband was murdered, it shocked me, but it made me very, very strong. I said, I mean, obviously people ask, how can you be that strong? How is that possible? It's like, you never know how strong you are until you're tested. And I was tested at that time. And that basically what I withstand that test, and I was able to somehow put myself together. And for a long period of time, I was very tight, like I felt like I'm a very tight rope that I cannot let go. I have to fight. And that's up to now. But let's go back. You asked me about the childhood. We can talk about the later time. My childhood, I was born in a very beautiful, perfect town, Western Ukrainian town, Berezhany. Many of our diaspora people, colleagues, friends are from that town. I mean, their ancestry come from that town. You probably don't know that actually even Barbara Streisand's grandfather is from Berezhany, and Tchaikovsky is from Berezhany, and relatives of Yevhen Libovitsky and relatives of Boris Gudyak and many, many others are from my small little town. So nothing special about me, nothing special. And I actually, that you asked me about the childhood, and I never, I mean, we will go back to this, to the question of like how did you choose your profession and so on. I never really thought about it until I went to Harvard, and they make us or give us time to think about it. And then when I thought, why do I do what I do, and I kind of examined my childhood, and I realized that it probably was not even it was like a destiny for me to do what I do. So my parents were regular people. My mom is a bookkeeper, and my dad is engineer. He was the head engineer of the radio factory in Ukraine, and he was a communist at work. And I grew up in the center of the town, this building where we had one huge room, only one for 5 of us. I had 2 siblings, my sister and my brother, and my mom and my dad. And we didn't have running water. We didn't have a toilet in the house. So all of that kind of like make us probably strong. And my dad, communist by day, going to work, writing his reports. At night, at night was turning on Voice of America, and I was going, since we had only one room and we slept with my sister on the couch. I would go to sleep under the very strange voices. This is Voice of America from Washington, D.C., and I remember that very vividly. And my dad made us pray for during the dinner, and on Sundays he usually a very devoted believer. He would he cannot, as a communist, he cannot go to the church that was right near our house. Like I could have touched the wall of the church from my window. But he could not go to that church because of the danger. So he would walk. They would walk with my mom 15 kilometers to the village to attend the service at the on Sunday service at the church. So that issue of like my dad would be he loved history, he loved poetry, Ukrainian poetry. He would teach me Shevchenko. He knew Slovo o Polku Igorovi by heart. We would walk somewhere, he would hold my hands and read poetry to me. And it's like it was a very difficult kind of to understand, because at school they were telling us something about communism. We didn't learn Ukrainian history, and at home I had something totally different environment, and it was those double standards. I always questioned. I didn't understand, why do we have to have double life? But I had a lot of responsibilities when I was young. I mean, my sister was 2 years younger than me. My brother was 10 years younger than me. And they were all on me. I have to take care of them. I have to feed them. I have to put them to bed. That was always my responsibility. So maybe as an older sister, that actually helped me to become stronger as well. I'll let you speak now.
No, this is very interesting. So I hear a lot of mixed messages from your parents. One way, the communist who goes to church, but nevertheless, as I understand it, you were brought up in a very Ukrainian family.
Yes.
That is correct. Okay,
Absolutely.
so as you were growing up, did you have an idea that you wanted to be a journalist or anything? Like every kid says, when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut, a nurse. What was it in your life? Or maybe there was nothing.
Actually, it was a difficult question. For a long time, I could not make my mind. I loved theater. I loved singing. I loved dancing. I was performing a lot. And my theater teacher would come to my mom and tell her that I should be sent to theater school. But my mom was like, forget about it. What are you talking about? Theater? It's like, and I was thinking, I loved history. So I wanted to be a historian, and that was one of the idea, but I didn't understand. I didn't want to teach, so that was not an option for me. I was trying to. I always wanted to do something between history and publicity and theater, so something that in that regard. And in the end of the day, I thought about journalism as well, but my parents were like, no way, like the journalism is very dangerous. I grew up in communist time. I mean, I was growing up in Soviet school. So, and it's Soviet time, the journalism, you have to be a propaganda and lie, or you cannot survive. So, and for me, for my dad, for my mom, I mean, they were both very big truth seekers. My dad always had an issue with his at work because he would always report some misdoing, and he always wanted to find the truth in everything. And it's like it's kind of ingrained in me. And I realized that I would not be able to work as a journalist if Soviet Union proceeds. So, and then my mom came with the idea. It was like, maybe law, like you want to be factual, you are interested in truth, you want to do something like that. Maybe law would be a good idea for you. And I thought about it. I started actually picking up some law books from bookshelves, and I was like, yeah, maybe that's kind of interesting. So that was my decision. And it was profession that was strong. I mean, I meant a profession that would be a stable profession. And and I went to law school, but I always knew it's just, I love law. I love facts. I love structure as in everything. However, I love to paint outside of lines. I do love to think outside of box. So this is kind of that's probably what in the end brought me to journalism.
Plus, I never knew you were interested in performing in theater, but now that you mention it, it's a perfect combination for you. And that is exactly what you're doing. You are performing. And yes. So you finally came full circle, it seems. But you were also, that is where you met Georgy, right? On a film set or a documentary set?
Actually not. I was working as a lawyer. I started actually after university. I mean during the university time. I worked at the local government as a law advisor. And Georgy came. He wanted to open the Georgian center, cultural center. So that's how we met, and I helped him to legally organize his paperwork and organize his center. He didn't have the law required 3 people to do for the documents to register the center, and he didn't have third person, so I actually become that third person to do that. That's how we met. And then I mean, he was so inspiring, interesting, and handsome, and he wanted to do journalism. He wanted to tell his country, Georgia, story to Ukrainians. He was half Georgian, half Ukrainian. He spent a lot of time, his mother was Ukrainian. He spent a lot of time in Lviv when he was a child. And that's how he came to Ukraine. And his goal was to, and Georgia was already in war. Georgia had opposition movement, then war, and he wanted to tell that story to Ukrainians. And I was like, okay, let's do it. His Ukrainian was not very good, so I became a writer, editor, and everything else, and that's how we started working together.
And then later wife.
Yes,
and mother of his 2 children.
Yes,
Nana and Solomia.
Yes.
Now, I remember when you and I were talking about a week ago about, our questions and so forth, and I made a big mistake. I said, well, I'm going to ask you, when you had your children, were you thinking of sitting home and being the housekeeper and the mother to your children? And you laughed and laughed and laughed uproariously at this ridiculous idea that you would have wanted to do this. So you didn't sit at home. You, from what you're saying, you were working the whole time and never even thought of that. So right there, I can see that there was this drive to continue to move forward, to tell a story, whether it's the Georgian story or the Ukrainian story.
Yes, Marta, I was talking about kids. I actually, to be honest, to our audience, how many people do we have right now? 80? My vision is not very good. 80. So I have to say that I never wanted to, at that time, I didn't want to have kids. My career was growing. I very fast became first I become like an information reporter. Then I moved to Kyiv, become a head of information service, then became a head of PR, then became of the general producer of the big TV station. And my career was growing, and I was afraid that I would lose a lot if I would have kids, because I realized that, I mean, I have to take care of kids. Like if I'm a mother, I'm a mother. This is something, there's priorities, right? And but Georgy was so resolute. He wanted to have kids, and he was just like demanding, and I basically gave up. I gave up, and we learned. I mean, we didn't expect it would be two, right? So it was like, that was a big surprise too. And but I still worked until 8 months pregnant. With two babies in my belly, you can imagine, running around. And when the kids were 3 months old, I started working from home. And there was a election campaign in 1998, and I started working again. And I would feed the kids during the night. I would run to meetings, come back. We would hire first my sister was helping me to take care of babies. Then we hired a nanny. And but it was a very difficult time, because I was feeding kids for like 11 months, and I would not sleep at night, and I would go to my office. I was then director of PR for the daily newspaper Day. And I had an office. So I would put the chairs on the side, and I would sleep for 15 minutes during the day, because I would felt I would die. And then I had actually another job at the PR firm, doing some advertisement for car industry. So I was working like 2-3 jobs after, like, when kids become like 10, 11 months. So
you were a busy woman.
Yes.
And thinking that this would continue. And then, of course, the horrible events of the year 2000 completely changed everything in your life. I mean, it's a trite question, but how did you survive it? I cannot imagine going through that. What kept you going?
Seeking the truth kept me going. Seeking the justice kept me going. And fear as well, to be honest. I understood that if I would keep silent, if I would not speak out, they can do whatever they want with me as well. And we didn't really, at the start, we didn't know what happened to Georgy, right? But we, during the summer of that year, I mean, he was followed. And we had some suspicions, and I helped him to write a report to the general prosecutor office in July of that year. So we already knew that something is going on, but obviously nobody expected that something horrible can happen. And I remember we had one night in August of 2000, he came to home and said, people recommend me to leave, to hide. And I was like, I was crying, and I was like, where would we go? Like, where? We don't have money, we don't have any connections. What do we do? But maybe you should stop doing what you're doing, because he was very vocal during during the election campaign, Kuchma's election campaign in 1999. And then there was a referendum, totally falsified referendum in April of 2000, of April of 2000, after the election. Election was falsified, everything. So he was just only, like, I would say, only voice who would actually speak about corruption, about all that stuff. During the winter of 99-2000, he went to Washington, D.C. He was speaking here on the Hill in State Department, telling what's going on really in Ukraine. He created this newspaper that was just to publicize this information, because nobody would hire him at the media. Were already censored in Ukraine totally at that time. So the country was actually moving to the authoritarian regime, basically. That's what Kuchma was trying to do. He wanted to expand his power. So all that was happening, and actually I realized that his disappearance back then, because we didn't know what happened, was definitely was not something simple. There was something, somebody behind that. And first, when I started, second day, on 17, I actually organized the press conference. My thought was, if we will be loud, if we would be vocal, maybe we'll find him, because we all hoped that he's somewhere. Maybe they're hiding him, they kidnapped him. There was a lot of possibilities that we called all the militia state police stations and psychological hospitals and hospitals. Everywhere we were trying to find. And then what was the date? I don't remember the date. It was October, when actually his friend called me and said, we found him. And basically they found a corpse. And then back then I just remember, it's like something died in me, like really, like I was burned inside. And then, what can you have two kids, you have responsibilities, you have to move. And actually one of you said what kept me going, responsibilities for kids as well. So, and I knew at one moment, I remember those tapes, I worked at the political party back then, Reform and Order, Zielyk and Yushchenko and all these people. And somebody from my colleagues brought those tapes with Kuchma speaking and put it in a recorder. And I remember there was like a 7-man, all politicians in the room, and me, and we are listening to those tapes, and Kuchma is laughing about Georgy, about me. Then he's talking about how that I'm very loud, and that I'm organizing something, and we have to do something about that. And I was like, I looked at my colleagues, I was like, people, and they were just discussing it, like as something like political movement, right? And I was like, he's talking about me. Did you hear that he's talking about me? And they were like, oh, you went through so much already, so you'll be fine. And I was like, at that moment, that particular moment, I remember, I was like, okay, so I have to take care of myself. There's no one would protect me. And that's when I decided that I need to leave. And for a long time I was not able to, and I had an offer from American government and Canadian government, but I was not ready, because I wanted to bury the body, and they would not let me. They would not let me to recognize the body. They would not. It's a horrible story.
It really does sound like it was a terrible time for you, but we are so glad that you accepted asylum from the United States and came to us. I'm sure all the other countries were great too, but we're so lucky that you came here, but still it was very difficult the first few years, I'm sure, before you established yourself at the Voice of America. So once you did get to the Voice of America, how did that, or what was it that you were trying to do with the platform that you had at Voice of America at the very beginning?
Let's go a little bit back, because when I came, I mean, there was not, I mean, first of all, you remember me not speaking English. So this is clear, right?
Although I have to say your comprehension of English was excellent.
No, I
It was
understood.
only your active speaking. So you were doing very well.
But I didn't know the language. I mean, to work in the United States, you do need to have
Of course.
so professional work. So actually, and then what helped me, actually, I started working actually with Nadia's help.
Yes.
She called some people and they asked them to actually look at me and maybe help and give me some.
Let me interject just for those people in the audience who might not know who Nadia Dyuk is. Nadia Dyuk was, she passed away tragically a few years ago, but she was a vice president of the National Endowment for Democracy and a tireless fighter for civil society around the world, not just Ukraine, but around the world, in also taking care of human rights and civil rights. And she was a British Ukrainian first, and then she became an American citizen. And she had quite the career, and it's a great loss that she is no longer with us, but she was quite helpful to you.
Nadia was, I consider Nadia my sister, and she was actually from Pidhaiti. It's right like 20 kilometers from Berezhany.
Mhm.
And we became very close, and she became my family here. I mean, so I mean, that was it. I didn't have any other families.
So after a while, you did get some sort of support group for you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people help. I mean, I spoke. I mean, I couldn't even like say, okay, this person or this one. Nadia was very prominent in this, right? But a lot of people were supportive and trying to collect money for me and kids' clothes and toys, and specifically from the start. And I got a job first at International Republican Institute. They gave me a contract because I worked with them. I worked with both International Republican Institute and National Democratic Institute in Ukraine as a trainer, as a media trainer. So and that helped me a little bit. And then I went to work with Radio Liberty for a while, and actually that's where I basically learned the core of. I mean, I knew journalism, right? But I mean, obviously worked in journalism a lot. But here I learned the core of Western standards, Western journalism, and I had to translate so much. I had to work back and forth all the time. So for 4 years, actually, that brought my comprehension, my English comprehension. That led me to actually work for Voice of America, because starting working at Voice of America, I had to pass the English exam. So it was not that simple. And
you started a TV program at the Voice of America, because when I was working at the Voice of America at the 80s, all we had was radio, no video. So that was a major step forward.
Yes, I wanted to do television, obviously, because I was from television. I knew television. I knew how to do it, and I knew how to do it cheap, actually. And I came to my boss at Radio Liberty, and I said, "Let me do TV. Let me I can organize it very efficiently. Like let me do it." And they were like, no, we don't do television. Radio Liberty is only radio. I was like, Okay, fine. You don't want to do television, fine. So, and then I helped, it was 2004, and Adrian Karmazin was director at Voice of America. And back then, United States government wanted to close Ukrainian service.
Yes.
Let's remember that. And
Mhm.
Adrian came to me for some help on the Hill, and I did a little work, and basically the service was saved. And Adrian came to me and said, "Come to work with us." And I was like, "I am coming to work with you only if you let me do television." And he was like, "Fine, do whatever you want." I was like, "Okay."
Great. Mhm.
And
So,
in the winter of that year, the revolution started, and we went on the air in the end of 2004 with the Daily Show.
that's fantastic. And so, since we're talking about this, the question everybody wants to know, who came here probably to find out, what is it that powers your passion? Why do you do what you do, what you've been doing all this time since you came to the United States?
The search of truth. I would say I'm very I have a hard time with current media everywhere in Ukraine, in this country, everywhere. I don't like sensationalism, and I think it's too much infotainment everywhere. And I think our democracy is dying, and the populism is growing, partially because of our inability as a journalist to be factual, and because obviously of technological development and social media. And I think we as a journalist are responsible for the health of, like, as doctors, responsible for the physical health of your body, or not responsible, but supposed to help you to with physical health. Journalists are the same way. They're social workers, helping to with your with what are you're feeding your brain. And if you're eating junk all the time, if you are reading some conspiracy theories, if you are, because that's what is provided, if you are not able to distinguish between facts and opinions, you cannot make educated decisions, because all the educated decisions made on facts. And if you cannot make, if there's no facts and not enough facts, your decision making is not good, and you vote for whatever you vote for, and then you can, because this is like you have a wrong information. When you have a wrong information, you make your decision on the wrong information. So I see myself and my job as to give people facts, to help them to make those educated decisions, to give them context, to help them understand the world better. This is like, and that's my passion. That's my passion. That's my mission, I would say. And obviously, as well, I would say it's not yet at this capacity that I have right now. I do observe, I do tell, I do report, but I have bigger ambitions. I do want to make decisions, and I do want to help others, and not yet, but I think I would probably go. Eventually would leave journalism and would probably go to other career, government career or political career in my future.
Are you talking about a political career probably in Ukraine?
We will see.
Oh, keeping it close to the vest. Okay. But in the meantime, before you go into another career, which you will
Definitely not yet.
not yet. Okay. So before then, you are moving to Ukraine to head a completely new office, an office that was created just for you, to be the chief of the Eastern Europe mission or office, whatever the name of it will be. Can you tell us what your vision is for this office and why is it important right now? And how did it come about? Was it your idea? Was it the idea of the Voice of America, your bosses?
Who said that good leaders they don't apply for jobs, they create the jobs for themselves?
Mhm.
So I have to say that I all my life I'm creating jobs for myself, and this is not I mean, this is the same thing happened here. Basically, I was telling my leadership at Voice of America that we need to have more presence in Ukraine and Eastern Europe. And for a year, I was trying to promote that idea. And since basically VOA lost Russian service, Russian bureau in Moscow because they were named as a foreign agents, and I was telling them that it would be informationally and politically effective to create the office in Ukraine. And they were thinking about it and discussing it for a long period of time. And I basically, at the end, I mean, I almost lost hope that something would happen, really. But it was brewing, and this current crisis actually pushed that decision. And basically, we still have temporary leadership at Voice of America, but even that temporary leadership, they've decided that yes, we do need more presence in the region. And they called me and said, would you be able and willing to do that? And I obviously said, absolutely, I will. However, to tell the truth, there's no money yet, and so it's a big title, but not much resources. But I think they will come. We have a how it's called, a budget resolution right now, so it takes time. Its government is not moving that fast, but eventually we will hopefully be able to make a bigger team, and that's what my plan is. So there would be three pillars of my work there. First, I will be obviously telling the stories of Ukraine and Eastern Europe to our global audience around the world, because Voice of America, as you know, have a big presence around the world, specifically in Africa, in Latin America. We are have huge audience out there. So right now I'm signed with Central News English service. So I will be covering the region from Ukraine. Then I will be telling America stories and explaining American policies to Ukrainian media. So that would be part of my job. I will be speaking in different TV channels in Ukraine and in the region. And the third, we will be covering we are planning to do special show. It was one of the big leading TV channels as well. So it's still in plans. We'll see how this will develop. No, and obviously we'll hopefully be able to have stringers in majority of Eastern European countries, in Poland, in Hungary, in Moldova, all those countries that are lacking our interest. I mean, specifically for this pro-global audience, that the region is still kind of terra incognita in some way. I mean, Ukraine become prominent right now because of the crisis, but basically it's still not covered well. And so that would be my job. And unfortunately, in the last 10 years, the Western media and American media was drawing, and actually even our international broadcasting was drawing their resources from the region, and the Russians are coming, and the Russians are basically occupied already information sphere in the region. In English, they are providing information, and I saw so many times when American media become a tool of Russian propaganda because they don't know the region well, and they sometimes just take as a truth some of the propaganda that Russians are producing. There's a couple of resources. We know Russia Today, obviously. We know Raptly. There's a couple of resources in English that are available for free for everyone. And if you're not thorough, if you're no new journalist, if you don't have time, so there's a lot of issues here. You just take something. Oh, this is I literally I saw many times, and many times I would try to send a note to the journalist or call the newspaper or call the publications and tell them this is not true, but you cannot like do it on your own all the time. So this would be my new job.
It sounds like an uphill battle, but very grand plans. I do wish you the best of luck. Do you have an opinion on the Ukrainian media, how they are performing their job and informing the world and Ukraine about domestic politics, about politics within the region? You left 20 years ago. Do you see a lot of changes in the media between then and now in Ukraine?
I would say that Ukrainian media are free. Now they can cover whatever they want in the way they want. However, they are not independent, and majority of the media resources are controlled by oligarchs or politicians, and they are using media and journalists as a tool in their political or economic interest. And this is the issue, and that's affect the coverage of events. Another issue that Ukrainian media have is sensationalism, as we do here as well. And it's like just sometimes just disgusting. And one more issue is that a lot of majority of journalists, I would say, they don't have a good knowledge of languages, foreign languages, and they have to, in this situation, rely on Russian media because the Russian is called common spoken language, and they again become a tool of propaganda as well. So there is combination of things that are not. The quality of the information is an issue. However, it's beautiful. They care about presence. They're beautiful, big studios, very well prepared. I mean, how they look like, their reporters. All that is there. However, I haven't, like when I'm there, I'm trying to watch BBC, Voice of America, other resources to really understand what's going on in the world, because I cannot get that picture from Ukrainian media, unfortunately. And as well as the lacking of international coverage. Still, Ukraine lives in this kind of bubble, informational bubble. They care about themselves and they don't really see the world. And that's lacking as well. That's what I'm hoping to bring as well to Ukraine.
There's actually a question sort of along these lines from Andriy Rodetsky. I'm going to read it for you. Students and young journalists find themselves in no better time in history to practice their discipline right now with everything that's going on in the world. What opportunities and challenges do these young professionals encounter in Ukraine in particular for identifying relevant outlets for reportage and storytelling?
I have to say that, I mean, obviously with this crisis, there's a lot of, right now, I have to say last month, over 1,000 TV crews, foreign TV crews are in Ukraine. So, and they are all looking for help. And they're all looking for fixers, and they're all looking for translators. So Ukrainian young generation of Ukrainian journalists actually have a chance right now to work with foreigners, foreign media, and with the whatever we say, the standards are there. I mean, in foreign media, and it's a good educational experience for Ukrainian journalists, as long as they know the language, and this is the issue, as I said. In regards of, I mean, it's still not enough outlets in Ukraine. Recently, as you know, the Kyiv Post was closed. They reopened again. The young journalist who left Kyiv Post created this outlets called the Independent, the Kyiv Independent. Actually, pretty good tool. They are doing a good job. I'm reading them right now, and I would definitely recommend. My understanding that they had an issue with the owner. I mean, I know this because I report on the issue, and Brian Bonner was the editor, and he was not able to basically convince the owner that the reporting that they are doing at Kyiv Post is actually proper one. The owner wanted more positive news. So they basically, the whole group of journalists left, and including Brian. Brian just retired. And but they are trying to do the good job, and they get some resources, and they're looking for investors. So I would definitely recommend looking at them. Kyiv Post, they reopened. They're doing a fine job as well. I mean, some reporting is good. I'm reading them as well for the factual information. Basically, unfortunately, they had this English language broadcasting created after Maidan revolution in Ukraine, and I thought it's actually a very good tool. They should have kept going with this. I mean, the TV show was a little weak. However, at least they could have produced information as a just newsletter information, so that would be good for the world. But the Zelensky administration decided that they would cut that in English and they would reopen it in Russian. So right now they have no English language international broadcasting in Ukraine, unfortunately.
Let me ask this question. At this very difficult time in Ukraine, how can the Ukrainian diaspora here in the United States, or for that matter in Canada and other countries, assist? What can we do?
I mean, I think let's say it's this Kyiv Independent, the Kyiv Independent, good resource. Why not support them? They have just prescribe, and it's not that expensive.
Subscribe to them.
It's like I don't know, $50 or something, maybe even less. So if like thousands of people would do that, you can always support the publication and they can grow. One more thing I forgot, that Новое Время, owned by Fiala. This is the businessman who actually recently bought Ukrainska Pravda as well. He is actually one of those who he's a Westerner, he's Czech, and he's trying to actually hold the line and not influence the editorial. It's actually, I mean, I have to praise him for that. And they opened English language publication as well. So this is one more tool that you can go to for information. What else? Diaspora, read, give money, send kids, send your kids to help Ukraine, like whatever, volunteer, do work. I recently sent my Nana daughter to do volunteer work as a Go Global to teach English to kids. I mean, you don't need to, it's not that like you basically pay for tickets and they help to set you up with the school, and you help them, and you just spend a little bit, couple of weeks, months, or even longer if you want, but you actually help them. Those kids are thirsty for information, they're thirsty for languages. So this is even you don't need to be young, you can be yourself, like you can go and then do the same work. I know a lot of Americans do that too. So just something like that would be very helpful. I mean, small steps, I would say.
You know, speaking of your two daughters, you raised them basically by yourself in very difficult circumstances. And from what I can see of the few things you write on Facebook about them, they seem like remarkable young women. What did you tell them? Or how did you show them how to become like that?
I believe that you don't tell kids what to do, that you show them what to do. And if we were very tight family, obviously, and they observed me. I was working hard all my life, and took responsibilities, and try to be a good citizen, and try to take care of them. And actually, I think that teach them good work ethics and organizational skills. I have to say, my kids are much more organized than I am, and they always tell me, like my little, our little mommy, our teenager, they say, because I am very bad at Excel spreadsheets, and where they are very good at it. Since from the small age, if you would travel somewhere, I would task them to do all the planning. So they would do all the museums, all the hotels, all the plane tickets. Everything was on them, so they know how to organize everything since they were like 10, 11. I mean, and then you just support them. You give them whatever they need, love, they need support, and I supported all their adventure in their whatever they wanted to do, and eventually they found what they are passionate about. And I think I mean, thanks God, I'm actually happy that they grow up a good citizen and good people, and that's the most important thing ever.
Do you think the educational system in Ukraine can create children like yours? Is it up to those kinds of standards? How is the educational system doing these days?
I think they did. Yes, they. I mean, it's very because I mean, there are a lot of private schools and a lot of rich parents who send their kids outside of the country, obviously. But I have to say, let's say my nephew, small town like Berezhany. I mean, they have a very strong education system. It's about values. It's about how you. I would say more about values than anything else. My nephew in Ukraine, he's younger, 1 year younger than my kids, and he. In a small town, and he grew up and he learned 5 languages by himself, and somehow he's working with Grammarly right now in Ukraine. He's a linguist for Grammarly with all his language skills and finishing university. So it's possible to actually have to teach yourself if you're driven and if you want. Obviously, we want better education system. I would like to see people, kids more have a more critical thinking, obviously, because Ukrainian education system is based on memorization, not analysis. That's, I see the big issue. However, it's coming along. If you're driven, you can do it.
And I think we're quite almost running out of time. So I think we have gotten a perfect last question from somebody who's watching us, from Samson. Pani Myroslava, he writes, thank you for this very touching and encouraging story. You mentioned about your possible plans for a political career in Ukraine. If you were elected the president of Ukraine, what would be your first 3 steps in that role?
Okay, first of all, I would, when I was a trainer and strategist for a political party long time ago, 20 years ago, I would, and communicator, I would teach my my colleagues never answer a hypothetical question. So this is very hypothetical. I can say what I see is important for Ukraine. And there are a couple of things that need to be done. First, it's to create a competition in economic system and deal with oligarchy, because I think the oligarchy is basically not letting small business and middle business to grow. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing has to be done. Second thing, the political parties. We have in Ukraine, there's huge issue with political system, and specifically now when the division of power is totally gone and the president is controlling the parliament and the government, and this is not, and it basically judiciary. So this is not the way to go. And it's very important to have a real political parties with some ideologies, not just this association without responsibilities, basically, where one leader creates the party, finance the party, no democracy, no competition, and the people on the ground cannot. There's no social lift for those leaders on the ground who actually have ability to become a leader, but they are not. The system is not letting them do that. And the third, obviously, and I probably would say that was I was supposed to say it as a first, is a judiciary and rule of law. And that's the one of the main pillar of stable institutions and competition in business. So without rule of law, without fair judiciary, Ukraine would not be able to sustain itself. So, and obviously now we have to speak about army, because we understand that the Ukraine would live with the neighbors that it has, and the threats would be constant, and the developing of your strong army is one of the core issue for the country. You don't want to fight, but you have to be ready to defend yourself.
Well, I would certainly vote for you if you ran for president. And honestly, why not? I mean, you've always reached high, so go for it. I'm sure you would get a lot of support. Thank you so much. On that note, I think this is a perfect time to leave us with that idea in our heads. So thank you so much for all the comments, all the things you gave us to think about. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, and thank you everyone who came today. It's Friday night. I am surprised that so many people are here. Please have a glass of wine after this. Just relax.
And I throw it over back to Andriy.
Thank you ever so much, Marta. Decidedly, everyone, and sadly, our program must come to a conclusion. Thank you ever so much, Myroslava, for sharing your time with us today, and for your enduring contributions to journalistic freedoms and human rights. But most importantly, your inspirational presence and the sharing of your personal story tonight validates not only your profession at large, but truth-telling and integrity in the public mind and eye. Also, many thanks to you, Marta, for accepting the invitation to participate and moderate this evening's event. Your highly intelligent and probing questions made for a most engaging and truly enlightening conversation. In the future, we look forward to welcoming both of you for a personal visit. I wish you both the very best for continued success. And a special thanks to all of you at home for taking the time to attend today's presentation. It's because of you, your interest, support, and participation that makes our events possible. I hope each of you found a treasured nugget of inspiration for further thought and exploration. I urge you to seek out more information about Voice of America, its activities, and global media impact in the pursuit of truth by visiting www.voanews.com. And for further information about the Ukrainian Institute of America, our mission, current and upcoming programs, membership and giving, please visit us at ukrainianinstitute.org. Thank you again, and we hope to see you soon. Good night, dobranic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.